Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, a few housekeeping matters before we get on the agenda. The emergency exits off to the side, and they are out in the back. Restrooms are in the lobby area. If you haven't done so already, please sign the attendance sheet. There are business cards at the back table next to the sign-in sheet. Feel free to take one, along with the phone number of the planning department. Also, on the back table are the proposed resolutions that should be right along with the agenda. If you haven't done so already, please silence or turn off your cell phones. If you have any conversations that do not pertain to the particular application, please take it outside so as not to disturb not only the application and the questions, but also the record. As far as the record goes, what we'll be doing here is recording what everybody says, and it would be very helpful if we don't talk over each other. So wait for our question to be finished. We'll wait for you. If there are exhibits that are on the screen, do your best to use descriptive words. It's not going to help those of us who are taking the minutes well, if you see over here and you see over there, that doesn't translate very well. So use compass directions, use structures. If you have other exhibits that you want us to see that you haven't submitted already, we can take a look at them. Just let us know that they're new so we can mark them accordingly. You're all set? It's okay. All right. I believe that's it. If there's other things, then we'll get to them. All right. So the first thing we'd like to take care of is approval of the June 5th, 2023 minutes. We'll need a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Alexis. A second.
Second.
Fred, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Great. All right. First, the Galassi project, looking for a one-year extension on a building permit.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Dante Galassi. I'm here on behalf of Linden Properties LLC, which owns the property. It's owned by my children and myself. It's the Galassi subdivision on Church Street, which has been approved by the town board, and it's got a permit that was issued, and it expires on August 17th of this year, and we would like to request an extension of that for 1 year.
This is your second extension?
This is there were two extensions. Second extension expires August 17th. This will be the third extension.
And in your application, you seem to indicate that it's a number of things have taken place, cost of materials, it's a bit of a complicated process going through planning, but it sounds like you're going to be able to complete all those remaining approval process and break ground before the end of the year?
We're hoping that we can do that. I mean, it depends upon, getting that stuff done and getting the work done, or getting the workers to come in. It's still difficult to get workers, still difficult to get materials. So, and I'm hoping, that the current thing that the housing market will improve with interest rates maybe coming down and the inflation settling down a little bit, because the housing business has declined quite a bit as far as building new houses.
Fred, questions?
No, I don't see any problem here. I'm okay.
Matt?
No questions.
Alexis?
Has there been any work done so far?
Yeah, we've done quite a bit of work. We just recently finished tearing down the two houses. There's still one small building there, but we plan to use that as a construction office during construction. We started the road in from the side of Lina Road to come in where this first construction will probably start. And other than that, we've held off because with the prices of construction and the price of materials and then the shortage of labor, the price goes up about, right now, roughly, the rule of thumb, price of construction of new homes is going up about 30%. And, adding that to the current level that they're at makes the house pretty expensive. So we'd like to see that come down a little bit, allow you to build better houses and make them, more livable.
And then the proposed project that was approved was for townhomes and single-family homes, is
No, there are no single-family homes
all townhomes?
in the, they're townhouses on one side. On the east side of Church Street, there are townhouses. On the west side, they're duplexes because that's what zoning permitted.
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay, Leah, questions?
No questions.
Adam, anything else we need to know here?
No.
All right, anyone from the public want to speak for or against the application? All right, hearing none. I don't have any questions. If everyone's good to go with this, I would entertain a motion for approval for the extension of time for the building permit to expire. That would be, Adam, do you know if it's on today's date or is it from the date of expiration?
I believe he gets 1 year from date of expiration.
All right, so that's going to be August 17th, 24. So I would entertain it.
Make a motion to
Yep.
accept.
I'll second.
Thank you. And second, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks so much. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, next is the Markin Project, 6894 Valentine Road.
Hello, my name's Jeff Markin. We're the homeowners, I'm the homeowner at 6894 Valentine. We've got two pastures that are going along the driveway coming into our parcel, our house. We're set back quite a ways away from Valentine. In fact, you can't even see this from Valentine Road. We're over 350 feet or so back from Valentine. So we built the house a year ago. We have a couple of horses and are looking to keep our fencing that we did there. I'll say we went ahead and built it, and I'll sort of say my bad for that because I didn't realize that I needed to do something about a horse fence. So but we would like to keep it there, obviously, and we've talked to the neighbors, and the people that can see it are supportive. I think one actually may have written a letter. That's it, yeah.
Fred, questions?
This set's so far back and it's so nice, I have no objections at all. Place is short lease.
Thank you.
Matt?
I agree with Fred's comments in terms of the fence and not being able to see it. Just a question for you. It's not zoned agriculture. It's R1,
Good question.
R2. I'm assuming it's an allowed use, or stabling or the.
Yes, he just needs to be, the stabling of the horses needs to be 100 feet from any property line, which it is. These are just pastures. The fence just wasn't permitted, the way the code's written, to be forward of the front line of the home. Other than that, and it needing a building permit, there's nothing.
Okay, no questions.
You all set?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Alexis?
How many horses do you have?
2.
No questions.
Leah?
Leah. I drove by today, I couldn't even see your house or the fence, and I think it's a beautiful fence, and I don't like fences, but that type of fence I really like. I think it looks beautiful, so I'm first, it's staying.
Thank you.
Is there some construction ongoing there? I saw an excavator and
Oh,
some
so
rough.
the neighbor had a water issue, so they had to dig up to find where the leak came from, and so that's all his, and they've put a bunch of it over on us, but they'll clean it up.
Okay, I think you said 350 feet plus or minus from the roadway?
From Valentine, yeah.
It's for a couple of horses. You know, the county planning board, because that's what they do, and you had to be a certain distance from, I'd have to look at a map. It's got to be either to a state highway or another municipality, but in any event, they took a look at it, you're exempt. They want to know how far the fence was from the right-of-way. I think you've already answered that. You got a picture of the fence, so I don't think there's really any other concerns we need to address here. It's well buffered, lots of vegetation, and I think to Leah's point, you can't see it when you're going down Valentine. Would anyone from the public want to speak for or against the application?
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a couple other letters here that,
So we have, how many you have there?
well, Todd and Christine, I think, Beluski submitted one. I think you may have that. And then Polidori and Ferry is the other sort of in front of us, and they've got a letter here of support.
Look here to see who else gave you support. Here we go. I'm finding two. I don't know if there's another one. There's just the two. All right, so we have two via email for support. Not hearing any opposition. I'm sorry, but
I didn't know if you wanted these, or maybe you already have them. These are the originals with the signatures.
yeah, we can make them part of the record. All right, it sounds like, unless I'm mistaken, everyone's pretty good with this?
Yep.
So let's run through the criteria. First justification, an undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by the granting of this area variance. Largely, the distance is 350 feet plus or minus from Valentine. It's well buffered vegetation. We have a couple of neighbors that are in support. There's no line of sight issues with Valentine traffic. It is apparently for a horse pasture area. Is that fair enough? Is that accurate? Okay. Anyone want to add anything else to the first criteria? All right, second, the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. I think we'd rely on the first justification, that it's not going to change the character of the neighborhood, and there is support from the neighbors. And we also will, let's put in there for the first criteria that County Planning Board looked at this, found 33.6 acres R2 and found this to be exempt. Third, the requested area variance is not substantial. Again, 350 feet plus or minus from Valentine. We consider that to be not substantial. Fourth, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. It's a fence. There is a picture that was attached with the application. I cannot see how that particular fence would have any kind of impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood. Fifth, it is a pre-existing fence, so I would consider that to be self-created. Would anyone like to add or comment on any of the criteria or conditions?
Well, Mike, maybe on number 4, you could also state that it's also well buffered and a lot of vegetation around.
Okay, we can add that. Anything else? All right, I would entertain a motion for approval.
A motion for approval.
Thank you, Matt. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Leah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, next is the Keystone Custom Decks.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So yeah, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and we went over quite a few things. In conversation with Bernie, we came up with we noticed a few other details as well, that I'm not sure if we discussed or not. One of those is, the proposed, porch is not entirely, it's not the whole side, is not past the setback, it's just the one corner.
Right.
So that's the east corner is the only spot that we're seeking a variance for. It's not,
My pointer. So that, right
Correct.
there on that corner, that's the only piece that's at issue, right? Okay.
and also, while that map is there, with it being a corner lot, it does push the house further back into the property, which I think creates a little less room in the backyard for porch, deck, building things of that sort. Whereas if it was just a straight lot and the house was parallel to the road, I think it would allow a little bit more space on the back side of the property. And yeah, one of the other things, I think we might have discussed it last time, but also I saw the county had asked the height of the porch. The porch wouldn't be over 15 feet and it would be lower than the garage, so it would not be visible from the road. So yes. And then I also included 2 pictures that show where the post would go in relation to kind of the living area. And then I also remembered that you had asked for renderings with the porch at 17 feet versus 20 feet. And I brought those with me, so if you'd like to see those, I have 3 of each, and I have one of an overhead view and then one from a side view, both of the 17 and the 20, if you would like to see those.
Sure, love to.
The first 3 are from the overhead view, and it's the 17 feet. The second one is the 17 feet and the side view. And then I have 3 more of the top view and 3 more of the side view at 20 feet.
Which ones are these, 17?
Okay, let's hold on, we're going to hold on to those just a second. The first 2 that you gave me, are the 17 feet.
So you can see from the side view what it does to limit the space in between the column.
1 sec, I'm going to mark these, so we're not going to get them all
Yeah.
jumbled up. All right, and I'm going to mark the overhead 17 feet, and we're going to call this Exhibit 1, put that one in the record. And then the side view of the 17 feet will be Exhibit 2. Okay. Now we have second set that you gave us. And it's an overhead and a side view. And what's the measurement on these?
20 feet.
Okay.
That's the one that we'd be seeking a variance for. The 17 would get the structure back within the setback.
Right, so I'm going to label and mark the overhead 20-foot as Exhibit 3.
I'll put 17.
Then the side view 20 feet as Exhibit 4. Okay, ready, go ahead.
So the 17 feet structure, you can see how tight the column is to the corner of the house.
Are we looking at the overhead or the,
The side
that's going to be Exhibit 2?
Exhibit 2. You can see how narrow that gets between the column and the house compared to the side view of the 20 feet, which would be the fourth one maybe, third or fourth.
Exhibit 4 is,
Exhibit
the
4.
side view is Exhibit 4.
Yes. So that shows how much space would be created in between the column and the house. So that was one of the concerns that we had with moving it back.
What's really the concern?
Just,
You're gonna walk, in one design, you're gonna just walk to the right of it. In another design, you kind of have the option to walk left or
was-
right.
I think there was a letter that the homeowner submitted, and I'm going to paraphrase, summarize it. 2 issues. One is just what you're describing, being able to walk through the house structure, the corner of the house, and the pillar, the 16-inch pillar. And the other is not being able to observe the kids in the pool while they're in the covered area. Fair enough? Yep. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Like here, the colors.
That was the other one I didn't understand. Is it because the pillar would be in the way? Because I think the
Because
patio or the furniture itself would be in the same location right underneath it.
So what the overhead, the drawing that you gave us originally, where it shows the pillar, home being 14 feet, and then the back of the garage being 21 feet, 8 inches. If the pillar, if you reduce that to 17 feet, what's going to happen is that 16 by 16 post is going to then get close to the corner of the house, and the space is only going to be about 2.5 feet or so.
Right? Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how, to me, it just seems like it would improve the view to the pool because you're moving it closer to the house and you're allowing more space to the right
yeah.
of the,
and some of that does depend a little bit on where you're at, but I had taken a couple pictures and sent them in, and those pictures were with the column where the proposed build would be, and also at the 17 feet. And then the picture where I took the picture from was about the center of the building where you would think that, you'd be sitting by a table, lawn furniture, et cetera. And that kind of showed a little bit more where the post would be in relation to the pool.
right, exactly. So you're referring to this one, right? So to me, if the posts were closer to the house, you'd see more of the pool. If I put the post farther out, it's going to be,
Okay, I thought that from
Right, I mean,
I thought from the picture and from when I was there, it looked a little bit the other
if I
way.
have the post,
I think it would be the other way too.
And also, the other thing you do kind of create is the closer you get that post to the house, the more you are creating a wall there when you look out through versus a whole gap to look out through, if that makes sense. The closer that we get that back, you know, and the more you go back into the house, the less space you're going to be looking in between the post and the house, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think they're talking about the sun. I think they're talking about that this post is obstructing the view of the pool. But that's what I'm saying is here, if, at 20 feet, the post is going to be here.
Yeah.
Okay? Whatever, it's going to be here.
No, see, they've got, like, let's say you sit here, right? This is 17. It's gotta be pulled out from underneath the roof.
Alexis? Micah?
Oh, if it's 17, you've got to pull it out. You've got to pull out your seating area further, probably not underneath the roof, to see the end of the pool. On the 20-foot, you're touching the edge right on the roof. Put your furniture underneath the roof, not be right under the sun, but you'll be able to see the end.
In both diagrams, the furniture's in the exact same spot, right? The furniture hasn't moved in the diagram, so I'm just trying to, and I get it, it's very easy I just don't think in my opinion, safety isn't part of the criteria, but to me, if I was gonna play the safety card is the one with it closer to the house, because then you would see the whole pool. I mean, or I wouldn't have used it in my argument.
Yeah,
It doesn't really support it.
You won't see the whole pool, but yeah, I guess you would be creating, if you sit more towards the east side of the porch, you would see more of it.
So then
But
that's
this
just
is from kind of where I just figured, you know, the most general center of where you're going to be in the porch area.
Yeah.
So if it was here, if my finger was the post, or if my finger was the post.
But
I think the biggest,
here, but if
I
you're
think-
sitting out here, you can
But
see
the,
the whole
but the
thing.
view doesn't, I mean, you have to solve for something. I mean, you can always kind of move. I'm just saying, I won't beat it to death. It's just, that particular point is a
Yeah,
bit of a
okay.
moot point to me. Whether I'm for or against it, I just don't think it has any,
okay, fair
in my
enough.
opinion, any impact. The one with it farther out is right in the middle of where you took the pictures, it's gonna be right in the middle of the pool.
I think the biggest thing that it will create is the closer that it gets to that corner, the more it's going to become an extended wall.
Sure. It'll be so close that you're not, I mean, again, the drawings, I think, do a
Right.
great job, and I appreciate you doing that for us. To me, it looks that with it closer to the house, it's at least close enough to where you're really, at least I wouldn't
Right.
try to squeeze through it.
Okay.
And with it farther away, sure, you definitely have the option, right? You can go left
Yeah.
or you can go right. Totally
Yeah.
see that.
You have other points you want to add before we ask questions?
I have a couple.
Okay.
I'm Bernie Budimir. One thing is, looking from the front of the house, you can't really see the structure because it's hidden behind the garage and the shed. The only place you can see it from is Duck Hollow for about a 10 to 20 foot section while you're driving by. So it's well hidden. Second thing is, the neighbors all support it. We talked to all 5 neighbors around us, plus a few more, and you probably get those letters, I assume? Okay. So there's no issue there, and the last thing is, with this being a, triangular shape, backyard, that's such a unique situation that I don't think this variance would set any precedent, because it's not your typical, we're not asking for the whole structure to be closer to the backyard, it's just one corner. So I don't see many more people using this as a precedent to get variances, if that makes any difference. That's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Matt, other questions? Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm good. Question.
Alexis, questions?
You guys are gonna keep the trees?
Yes.
No more questions.
Yeah.
Bigger and bigger.
No questions.
Fred?
Well, Mr. Coroner is encroaching and requires a variance. Is that true with both dimensions? Or is one of them clear of the wall setback, the side setback? They both require a variance?
The 17-foot rendering would be code compliant, Fred.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying now, yes. Yeah, like he said, the 17 foot.
Why not just go with that?
It was the space that they had wanted to create and the amount of room that they thought was a good amount for them.
Still a big porch. Okay. That's all I got.
All right. Want to touch on County Planning Board, a few comments, but determine this to be a Class 1. I think you've answered the question already. The height of the structure will be no more than 15 feet. On Matt's point, and actually the 2 points about distance between, if it were 17 feet, a 16 by 16 pillar, is it the pillar or is it the stonework that's below it? When you're measuring, when you're saying 16
16
inches?
inches, that's the column,
feet.
the stone column.
Okay, so that's aesthetics. That's optional, it looks nice, so that's something that you are creating a look for, so that distance between the home and the stone aesthetic column is, it's something that you create. That's narrow because you're doing that. You can do other stone, you can do no stone, and that would be even a little wider. The piece about you can't see the children in the pool with a 12 or the 17 foot pushed in. Move a chair. If the child's safety is that important, move the chair. You get closer. I'm not buying that one. And to Fred's point, it's a big deck. It's a big covered area. Your rendering, and I think shows, I touched on this last time, the sun is to the west of the home. So the home, already, even if it's a 17-foot covered area, you're going to get shaded area. And it's even going to cast a bigger shade, more than, if it is 17 feet, it's going to go much, maybe like what this rendering is showing, well beyond the home, maybe even approaching the pool. So you're going to be in the shade, even though you're not going to have the cover directly over you. What I also noted, and it's helpful, your neighbors are supportive, but the one that's curious to me is 778, which is the side yard. That's the big piece, right? Isn't that your neighbor, 778? Where the variance is encroaching?
They're one of the letters, I mean, it would be.
No, they're not. It's like 788.
It's 788?
No, 778.
778.
Duck Hollow.
778. And that's in here.
No, it's not.
The first people I talked to.
If it's not in there, then it was probably on either my,
I had copies of all of it. Yeah.
okay.
If you have the 778, I'd like to see that one. You know, if anyone's going to
That's
be
the Claytons.
bothered. Okay.
Oh, that is, yeah.
Thought it was in there, maybe.
No,
No.
it's not.
I didn't see it. So can we have we'll make copies and send these back to you? Okay, great. So that's both homeowners. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 11. Does that sound right? 11 total?
Yeah, I mean, I had tried to send more. I don't know if I didn't get them all through, or I think it's the
yes,
whole
yeah.
neighborhood.
Okay.
When did you send them?
Uh,
Last week's.
yeah.
All right, if it was earlier in the week, Amber would have gotten it. She was out Friday
I
and today,
was-
so I did not get any off of her
No,
email.
it would have been earlier. She had confirmed that she had received them all, but I don't know. Yeah,
We have a lot, but I don't think that many.
okay.
So I need a number. Do you know how many are in here? More than, I know there's more than 15, more than 20,
There's 20 households,
20 households, okay.
40 letters, but
All right, let's go with that, 20 households that are supportive.
Very substantial.
Anyone from the public want to speak for or against? All right, not hearing any of that. Okay. I had that concern, and you can do it, you can build it and comply with the code.
Well, doesn't the applicant have a choice here to make? Go with the bigger one and we vote,
Well, if we
or
get,
go with the smaller one and we don't vote?
if we get to that point, what I'm walking through is the criteria. So with that many neighbors, looking at the first criteria, I think the board would be hard pressed to say that there's going to be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. So that's for your benefit. Can you achieve it by some other method? Well, sure, you can pull it back 17 feet and still accomplish what you need. Is it substantial? You need 2 feet. You're looking for, you're looking for 8 feet and 10 feet's required. Are you measuring from the post or from the roof line?
I think that was originally from the post, so I guess if it's from the corner of the eaves, I guess technically it would be more like 7 feet instead of 8 feet. That was when I thought it was the corner of that was the original one I had handed in, and that was when I thought it was from the corner, because if I measure the corner to corner of the house, the survey would show the corner of the house, not the eaves.
So we are now at 7 feet. We can't guess at it, right? We have to be able to, when Adam looks at it, goes out and measures it, if it's 6.5 or 8.5, something different than what you've asked, there's going to be a bind, and you're going to be back here again asking for, I don't think you want to do that,
No.
right? So you're relatively confident, sure, it's not 7 feet, it's not 8, it's 7 feet that you're looking for.
Correct.
Okay. Even on that note, you're looking for 3 feet. Is it substantial? It's close.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but
I don't
it's-
think so either.
Is it going to change any kind of impact? So on that issue, how are you going to do and manage the rain? How are you going to mitigate that so it doesn't spill off into your neighbor's yard?
If we need to, we could take it underground and into the drainage. Does your drainage go in ground, do you know? So we could tie into the existing drainage and take it into their drains, with the downspouts going into the.
They would either consult with Adam or do everything you can not to have any kind of impact on your, because it's close.
Right.
You are going to be close. If it rains hard, it's going to go flying off that roof and into your neighbor's yard, and you don't want to do that to your neighbor. Self-created, that seems to happen like that. So let me take a quick straw poll here. Fred, where are you on this, if it's 20 feet? As proposed, 20 feet, they're looking for a 7-foot setback variance, as we just went through the criteria, unless you want to comment somewhat.
In my opinion, there's a first-class backup option that doesn't require the variance to begin with. And I'm in favor of that.
Well, that hits the second criteria pretty square. But if we're looking at 20 feet, as I just went through them briefly, I think it's a close call on how are you going to balance that, especially, again, that undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. The applicant has 20-plus neighbors, households, that are okay with it, and especially his neighbor to
East.
be the east. To me, I think that's the biggest impact, is
Yeah.
that neighbor right to the east.
Everybody around the property, all 5 neighbors.
Right, but that corner,
I can see your point in that being important. But we usually do whatever we can do to not need the variance. So
That's
it's kind
correct.
of hanging on to that.
That's right. Well, I think what usually happens is if the applicant has an indication that this isn't going so well, maybe we can push it back to 17 feet, for example. That's what I'm trying to get a gauge is where everyone is on the current proposal for the 20 feet covered area, which they're asking for 7 feet for the setback.
Well, I guess we, by the code, squeezed them down in the corner. We're semi-responsible for that being so tight, so I give that away. I could,
It's a close call.
I could vote either way. I
Okay. Matt?
could vote for the bigger one.
Yeah, so I think it looks great either way, in my opinion. It's going to be a great
Either way, yeah.
structure. I really think it can stay compliant with the code, where now it says, now it's 7 feet, although if I kind of look at the awning, are we sure that it's really only a foot over, because it looks like it sticks out quite a bit. You know, it's great that your neighbors now, that works in your favor, although their letters all say 8 feet, and we're going to give you another foot. It is tight in that corner, right? I mean, normally it's 15 for that particular subdivision, it was brought down to 10, and now here, we told the public it was going to be 8, and now we find out after 2 meetings, it's probably more like 7-ish. And I just don't think there's been much of a case for the difference, the difference between 20 and compliant with the code. I think it's a great project either way. So my opinion is it's 17 is where I'd like to see it compliant with the code. I just haven't seen anything that's really, if it's within the neighborhood, and we have plenty of cases where, neighbors, are in agreement with it. Your current neighbor today may not be your neighbor tomorrow or next year, but it is tight. And it's more of a want than a need. I think, again, I just don't see the difference. I don't think it'll be a, negative impact to the neighborhood. I just think I'm kind of weighing the third criteria, or the fourth one a little heavier, where it's can it really be done by some other method feasible to the
Second.
to the applicant. And it just seems like, 17 feet is very feasible or reasonable. I will ask you though, is 17 feet in compliant? If you bring it to 17 with that 1 foot overhang, that is,
Yeah, because otherwise it would be, we could make it 18 foot, because we were 2 foot too close, or 2 foot past. So if it's 3 foot over, going back 3 foot should.
that's where I sit on. I'm just one vote, but I think it looks great.
Alexis, where are you on this?
I don't have a problem with it. Mike, I'm glad that you brought up about the one neighbor, because I saw it and I noticed that they hadn't put in a letter, or at least that we didn't have the letter. I thought about bringing it up, but, when you think you've had 2 meetings, they've had almost 2 notices to say something about it, but obviously they have said something about it and they're in approval with it. On, the point about, like, your neighbors change, that when you buy, if you're going to buy a house, you know what you're looking at. So it's really only I would say the opinion of the current neighbors that I would really care about. It's a small amount, so variances are a big thing, but I would say that just because it's so small and it's not making such a large change, it doesn't really have too much of an effect on me. I'd say, making exceptions are a big deal, but for this is not. It's a small one. I'll say in my day job outside of this, I, will have constituents contact our office. I work for the state. And we had, someone call about someone asking, they failed their police exam physical test by 2 seconds on their run. Well, can you get it changed? Well, it's only 2 seconds, but with that, you're dealing with police, public safety, et cetera. With this, we're dealing with 2-3 feet on a porch, so I don't have a problem with it.
Leah, where are you on the 20-foot?
Well, both of them look fine to me, but I think because it's a tight yard, I think probably once it's built, the 17 feet might look better because it's a small corner. And Mike brought up great points about the sun and being shaded. So that's something you may want to consider, because when you have a pool, you want as much sun as possible. And the porch, the way either the 17 or 20 is going to provide enough shade and covering for your activities. So, I mean, I could go either way, but I think 17 would be better, especially once it's erected. You know, maybe the 20 looks too big and too shaded. That's all I have.
Okay. So I am probably closer to Fred's line of thinking. It's, playing into you certainly can achieve it by another means. It's a big structure. And what you're trying to accomplish in that area, I'm presuming, it happens sometimes, you go swimming in the rain, but most of the time you're there, it's warm, you want to get some shade. As far as being able to see in the pool, all right, maybe you're out there under the covered area, it is raining, but you're eating, you're not, the pool isn't an issue. Not being able to get through the 16-inch stone pillar, it's 2 steps to the left, whichever direction you go, and you're around the pillar. It's not that big. What's troubling me is it's a big structure, and great, thanks so much, getting those neighbors. But to Alexa's point, neighbors change, right? And that structure is going to be there. I've seen your work. It stays. It's going to be there for a long time. So with that, I can't tell you what to do. I think you're hearing the board. There's some concern. It's not a thumbs up, woohoo, let's get it done, and it's not a complete heck no, not going to happen. So this is now what Fred, I think, was talking about. You want to go ahead with a vote at the 20 feet and see how it goes. If it does, I think there's consequences to that, which means it would certainly hold up the project. Or you can say, no, we can do the 17 feet, and am I right? They don't need a variance, right?
Hey, can I say something?
Hold on, just let me finish, and I will certainly get back to you.
We would just have to review the new plans. Yeah, it would just have to be code compliant at that point, whether it's 17 feet or 16.9 or 17.2, whatever it is. From the eave to the property line, would have to measure 10 feet. Okay.
And he might be, if it's 17, it might be inches, but it's certainly not going to be 3 feet. So go ahead, you'd like to say something?
My concern is.
Come on up.
We never, yeah. Since we didn't measure, moving it back 3 feet, it's not gonna gain us 3 feet, right? Because it's a triangular shape. So we may have to go 4 feet. I'm asking, right? Because it's not perpendicular. You're moving it back this way. You're not gonna gain, if you move it back 2 feet, you're not gonna gain 2 feet from the setback, in my opinion. Am I looking at it wrong?
The posts are square, right?
The posts are square, but you're not moving it, if this is the setback, you're not moving it this way, you're moving it this way.
Be the square root of 3.
Well, I thought by moving it back 3 feet, that was what got you the other 3 feet, you know what I
No,
mean?
he's-
By moving the whole thing back, you're moving both pillars, right?
It would be both, yeah. But the other one doesn't matter, because it's like 20 feet away. I'm just thinking out loud, I guess. Do we have to move it 5 feet?
To my point earlier, we don't want to guess at this.
Oh, right, I understand.
So and I think the last meeting, Fred had suggested, 17 feet. I think it was based on the question, where does that roof line need to be code compliant? But this is now tripping the other question. You were measuring from the post, not the eave line, the roof line.
So my original measurement was to the post, which would have been 8 feet. And so when we figured out that the eaves are what matter, or the point that you would measure to, we had just went 1 more foot, because it would be a foot out over. But what he's saying is when you move it away at an angle, you don't get a foot per foot, right? So so I guess he's wondering if we move it back, so we had just that was what we had just went with, that to make it code compliant would be 17 feet, but I guess to know exactly, we'd have to get it surveyed again with a proposed drawing in it.
So you're representing the applicant. You can say, I'm good to go, let's do it today, we want the 20 feet, all or nothing, see what the board has to say. Or it's like, you know what, timeout, I want to go back and measure and make sure that if it is 17 feet, where that corner of the roof line is, I'm going to be code compliant. I think that's your choice
Well,
right now. On
So you
what
were saying
want.
there is, what's the procedure if we go to vote for it and it's denied?
If it's denied, it's a bit of a legal question, but if it's denied and you want to build it 17 feet or whatever it is code compliant, then you go right ahead and do it. But if you say, no, I really want the 20 feet, well, then you can pursue an Article 78 and appeal it, and it gets caught up in the courts, and you're not going
So-
to get your covered area. So there's different avenues that certainly you can take, but there's a period of time of when you can reapply, and it's a year, Adam, isn't it, on application? So if you are denied and you don't appeal it, you can't reapply for that same variance until next year.
So then we just have to really make sure that we comply to the 10-foot setback if it doesn't get granted.
Correct.
Because then if Adam would come back and say, I think it's over, and we get it surveyed and it would be over, then we would have to wait for quite some time.
Right, or if it's 4 feet, 5 feet, however it is to get pushed back, if you don't need a variance, then build it how you like.
Just so I make sure I get this right, so it's obviously the farthest outpost that is the one that's the fence line, for the most part, is the property line, right? That
Yeah, pretty close.
if you move that back 3 feet, you're really moving it back 3 feet from the instance where you were, right? I think you are getting foot for foot. You're not moving it.
No, I don't think so, because it's not, you're not, I mean.
You're saying as you move it back, it's,
You're moving it back towards the corner of the house.
You have a pointer on your podium. You have a pointer.
Sorry. Thank you.
Oh.
So if you move it this way, if you move it this way, it'll be foot per foot, but if you're going this way, it's not quite. I mean, it might be close, but it's not exactly.
Right, so it's not perpendicular to it.
Right.
It's at an angle.
I mean, we really want the 20-foot patio, I mean, we already did the homework, I mean, I'd say let's vote.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead with the voting. Yeah.
Okay, let's run through, I know we did it quickly. All right, so the first criterion, an undesirable change, we're going to put would not be produced, an undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by the granting of an area variance. The biggest piece we have here is the 20-plus letters that the applicant was able to obtain in the neighborhood, and specifically the neighbor to his east, which would be the 778 side yard, that had no objection to it. Would anyone like to add or comment on the first criteria? Second, the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. In further discussion today, as well as the previous meeting, the approximate 17 feet, this would be 17 by bear with me. Say it's 22, it's like, is it 22 feet 8 inches, is that what that is?
Wide?
21.8 wide.
21.
That particular dimension is significant space. So it certainly can be achieved by some method feasible to pursue other than a granting of an area variance. Would anyone like to add anything to the second criteria? Third, it is now, the requested area variance is not substantial, and it should be noted that the applicant changed his request from 8 feet to 7 feet, but even at 7 feet, it would not be substantial. Fourth, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. The applicant has indicated that they will mitigate any roof, rain, runoff, and directly into the drainage system, and there would be no impact to the neighbor at 778. Would anyone like to add anything to the fourth criteria? Fifth, the alleged difficulty is self-created. All right, I crafted the motion in the approval phase. So I would entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve.
Alexis, and we like to second that? All right, I will second it. All right, then all in favor of the approval or the 20-foot, excuse me, the 7-foot side setback? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Nay,
That's 3.
opposed.
Okay. All right, so you understand the consequences and
Yeah.
what you need to do next? Okay,
Thank
good.
you for your
Thanks so
time.
much for your time.
What was the vote count?
2 to 3. 3 in favor, 3 nays.
2 in favor, 3 nays.
Thank you. Yep, this goes with the record, right?
I don't think either drawing, we knew how close it was going to be to the property line. Just a quick comment there.
Whose these are? These. I think he. Yeah, so there might be duplicates in there. And this goes here. Hopefully I didn't take yours. If I did. All right, there's a little more order. Okay, the Hermand 6404 Erica Trail.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So since the last meeting, we've asked our immediate neighbors to submit letters if they were not opposed to or they didn't have any objections for the shed location. I believe there were five letters submitted, I believe.
Sounds right. Okay, go ahead.
And I went ahead and measured from the shed. I remember you asked, what was the distance from the shed to the street, Louise Way, and it was, I believe, about 40 feet.
What was that figure?
I'm sorry,
What was the distance?
40 feet
You said that was to the street?
to the street, to Louise Way, right. From where the shed ends to the,
Okay.
yep.
Other things you want to tell us before we ask you questions?
No, I mean, we were planning on, I don't know if that's gonna make a difference, we were planning maybe plant some greenery around it, just to make it look a little, I don't know, livelier.
All right, we'll ask you some questions.
Okay.
Alexis, got some questions?
There's one letter here from your neighbor, Arbin and Marita, but there's no address. Do you know what their address is?
They're across, not directly across, but a little bit to the side, so that's, I don't know, I don't have the map of the neighborhood.
Are they on Erica Trail or on
They-
Louise Way?
They are on Erica Trail. So we had 1, 2, 3 neighbors that are directly across from us, and then one immediate right next door. Pete Mott and Daniel James, they're right next door to us.
Okay, so I've got 6401 Erica Trail, 64, which is right across the street from you, 6402 Erica Trail, which is directly next to you, and then this one, are they to the, if you're looking outside your home window,
They will be to the left.
so there's 6399, I think. Are they across the street from your neighbors at 6402?
Slightly. Their property is more, yes,
Okay, yeah, I can see on the,
halfway.
yeah,
right.
it's like kind of
Yeah,
tilted.
yeah, tilted, yeah.
6399. What kind of, you said like landscaping you were gonna put around?
Yeah,
You're
I mean,
planning on it?
maybe, I don't know, shrubs, trees, just something to kind of make it look like, it's not so like just out there in the open land.
Okay,
I think that's gonna make it look better.
and what sides were you planning on putting that on?
I'm thinking the side of the shed, so
Like facing the street or in between?
facing the street, right.
Okay, and then in between the house and the shed, there's like a lawnmower and there's some
But
pallets
those,
there.
those pallets are gonna be gone. We're just waiting for bulk trash to get rid of all, all that's going.
What about the lawnmower?
That's going to, my husband is wanna get rid of it.
Okay.
So that's gonna be picked up.
And in between the shed and the house, like in this photo, it's all mowed, but then recently, I could tell like the lawn has been mowed, but in between the shed and the house wasn't. Is there a reason for that, or?
Between the shed and the house?
Yeah,
You mean where the pallets are?
yeah, but like, there's still obviously some grass there, and but like, pallets
Where
aren't.
the pallet is?
In front of the pallet, in front of the,
No, I think my husband mows there. But the grass, yeah, I
Right
don't know,
here.
maybe it's just that picture, but yeah, it doesn't look long now.
not in this picture, but like today it is, it was like a foot. I'd say at least.
I don't know, I didn't notice. But yeah, once that area is cleared up, he'll be able to go in with the tractor and mow it.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Oh, were these the only 3 neighbors that you asked, or did you ask any other neighbors for
So there
letters?
should have been 5.
So there's only 3 houses, but it's 5 individuals.
5, so Jordan, Bill,
Sorry, one second. Let me just. I've got William Irwin, Peter Mott,
Peter Mott,
Danielle
Danielle
James.
James. So Pete and Danielle, they live together.
Together,
but
yeah.
they're right next door to us, right?
Yep, so-
Yep.
And then
Then,
Arbin
the
and
Arbin
Rita.
fa-
So there's
Arbin
5
family.
individuals, but only 3 homes.
1, 2, 3. What about Jordan? Jordan. There's a letter from him too. I think he was the first one that wrote a letter.
It was, I think, a part of the original packet.
It was sent to Amber, right?
Okay.
Is one of those 1172 Louise Way?
Mm.
One of your, the one like basically in your backyard?
No, so he's across from us, not directly across from us, but next to Bill Urban's house.
So Jordan is 6403. So he's,
Yes, probably that's them.
these are right across, right on the, across from the T of Louise Way.
Yeah, so
American
he's like
Trail.
facing the street.
Did you ask anyone else?
We just focused on immediate neighbors, whoever was just around us and really, seeing the shed.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
The shed looks a lot there yet, but I did since the meeting.
Okay.
And that is very true, because the picture doesn't do it justice. So it is a lot smaller. And also, I made a comment also based on the picture, how the colors didn't look like it fit in, and it blends in. You know, it's with these phone cameras, they don't do justice, they're not
Yes.
professional pictures.
Yes.
And then, when I was driving around, I saw all the houses in your house, and the garage does look very small.
Very small. We
And-
barely fit our cars in it.
Yes, and the Ryan homes, they've started out down south, and they came up here, and really, the houses they build are cookie cutter, and they're more geared for the southern temperature, where they don't have snow blowers, and they don't have lawn mowers either, because the developments I knew from years ago down south, they took care of that.
Yeah.
That was part of the community. So
Yeah.
I see how these garages are very small, because I also had made another comment, maybe you can fit something in.
Yeah.
And I know Matt made that comment, but I
Yeah.
see it's
very small.
It's very small.
Yeah.
So, and with that being said also, it looks a lot smaller than the pictures showed. So, there's little option with it. But when you said now you're going to plant bushes,
Yeah.
some shrubbery,
Yeah, make
that's
it-
going to look a lot better
Yes.
even. Much
Yeah.
better than the fence, which we were talking about
Mhm.
last time also. So that's all I have to say now.
Matt?
I don't know. To me, the garage is a standard, what is it, probably 18 to 20 foot wide from wall to wall inside. I think it's the same size garage that,
I don't know,
All
I
of
mean,
us
we own a house in
have around
Jersey,
here.
and we had a
it's a
one-car
two-story.
garage.
Was the
But-
garage smaller when you bought it? Again, I'm looking at your house. He's got the same size garage, but he's also got the bump out garage, right, to give him that third space.
Yep.
I know your neighbors say that they say it looks the part with the neighborhood, but to me it doesn't. And the aesthetics aren't necessarily, the end all be all, but, the shed was put up. It's a vinyl style shed. It could either easily be moved, or I just don't think it fits within the character of the neighborhood. It's just, I think if you were able to reorganize or rearrange the garage or put some other things in storage, you may be able to achieve it. But certainly one that would be interesting is the house directly, really behind you on Louise Way, that particular one. Now maybe they're here, maybe they're not, I don't know. But it's that 1172? I said the number earlier.
Yeah, 11.
Which it's pretty much right in their front yard. I just don't see how it fits within the character of the neighborhood, in my opinion. There's got to be another way that's more feasible than erecting a, what was it, 8 by 12?
11.
11 by 15?
11 by 18.
11 by 18, which is big, again, it's probably almost as deep as the garage inside, right? I mean, to me, it's a substantial size structure. The code was designed for these types of neighborhoods. I live in one myself, a Ryan Home neighborhood, where the houses are lined up and they have a certain look and a certain character. So this is a tough sell for me. I know it's already there, and I try to look at this as if the shed doesn't exist, because it shouldn't, right, where we're kind of doing this out of order. But I just don't see how it's the right thing to do to allow it to exist in that location.
Fred, questions?
Well, I agree with Matt. I don't think it belongs in there. I find it a little irritating that you put it up without a permit. There's a place out back, you got some room. Wonder if it would be able to relocate. So could you put this instrument survey? Hard to read there, but where the 35 circle is.
Done.
It's outside the setback
Right.
line.
The 35 circle right there.
Yeah. There's, I don't know what size it is, appears to be 12 feet square or more. Did you look at that at all in the back?
There's no room. I mean, there's a patio and then the hill slopes down. So it's not leveled. So there would be no,
Well, the grade lines show it staying pretty level in that, behind it, that it starts down.
I think maybe what I struggle a little bit is if the shed weren't existing, right? And you were here talking to us about it, I think we would be talking more about if something were allowed forward of where you want to put it. Something smaller that had more of a look to the home. And that's where my reluctance is that it's already there, it doesn't look like the home at all, and it's quite large, versus, for me, if it was something that we were able to work with you on and say, all right, if you did it this way, and if you made it, if it was half the size, or if it was this or with that, it might look a little more in character of the neighborhood, or not be as impactful. That's the difference, right?
Fred? Are you done, or did you have more questions?
Well, it's a rather blatant self-created problem, I think. But that's it.
Okay, as I look to Fred, and even Matt's point, he brought it up before about where that 35 is indicated on the survey instrument. And you talk about the patio, and I'm looking at the aerial, but the slope on where, not on where the patio is, but next to it, this would be south of the patio area. Personally, I have a shed that's, it's about 12 by 20, and there was a slope. With 4x4 timbers on the downside of the slope, and you work it into land, you put stone, you can do it. It can't be done.
yeah.
It'd be one thing if you had a steep slope. I mean, I can tell by the topo map that there's a slope in there. So it can be done, which is one of the criteria, is do you have any options that you could do without the use of a variance? You do have some neighbors that aren't opposed, but you bought the side, the corner lot. You're subject to the front yards, both where the driveway is and where Louise Way is. I hear you're going to put some vegetation in, but I also, again, as I'm looking at the aerial, there's no walkout in the home. You know where the
No.
walkout is,
No.
right? There's no door, there's no egress window.
No.
But what I'm driving at is, if the slope was that steep right behind the home, there would be a door, a walkout, or an egress window, but there's not. So it's not a significant enough slope where I don't think you can't put that shed back there. And as my quick drive-by, I didn't take a survey and stick
Yeah.
up, I was eyeballing, so I
I don't
think,
think there's room for it back there.
My concern is the neighbor that's right behind us there, that it's gonna be right in their face.
well, the neighbor at 1172,
Right.
you're forward of her garage. If you're looking down,
Yeah.
this would be the south side of your home, going down Louise Way. That shed is now further out of where the line of homes are for Louise Way, starting with 1172 and then going west. So aesthetically, as you're looking at it, it looks out of place. Most sheds, unless you have, I think, larger homes, larger acreage, most sheds go in the backyard. You want to put yours in the side yard, which troubles me on is it going to change the character of the neighborhood? Being on the corner lot, putting a shed there, makes it look like it doesn't belong there.
I have a shed, it's 8 by 10. Get quite a bit of stuff in it, seems like.
All right, it's a large shed. 11 by 18 is a large shed.
Big enough for a car.
How long has that shed been there?
November of last year?
All right. Anyone else have any more questions, comments, concerns?
I just have two comments, Mike. The instrument survey provided puts the front house corner at 36.9 feet from the right-of-way line. The applicant has stated that the shed is 6 feet from the side of the house, which would put the closest corner at 30.9 feet from the right-of-way. And then an 11-foot wide shed would put the shed well within the front setback that exists on the side. So it would take a additional variance for a front setback reduction to leave the shed where it is, in addition to being forward of the front line of the home.
What was the second? The last thing you said I didn't hear.
An additional variance for a front setback reduction of approximately 10.1 feet based on the numbers provided.
Is it the?
Off
there's a-
Louise Way.
On the, the south side, there's that where it says setback line
Correct.
on this, so you're saying it straddles that?
Right, so she took the measurement from the street, but the measurements are taken from the right-of-way, which is this dark, thick line on the survey surrounding the property.
Yeah, right. You're saying it's really measuring from here
Yeah.
and then from right there to there.
Yep, so if you put the laser back up there, that number there, drawing the line from the front corner of the house to the dark right-of-way line,
Yep.
a little to your right. Yep, that says 36.9 feet, so that's to the house corner.
Got ya.
And then the setback line is at 30 feet. So her house is only 6.9 feet from the setback, and now you have a 6-foot space, an 11-foot shed, so it's over the setback line as well. I just wanted to make sure that all of the appropriate variances, were granted if a grant was to happen. And then to Mike's point, at the rear of the property, I'm not positive if she were to place the shed behind the patio, that she wouldn't then need a setback reduction for the rear property line.
Yeah, I think it's largely because the shed's we know that the shed is now a purchased known size shed. So if you're going to try to reuse a 18 by 11 shed, I don't see anywhere on the property where you can put it in compliance with the code versus, I think if would have went through the process, you would have realized that you either need a smaller shed, a different location, and we all kind of either would have worked it out or never would have made it to us. Adam would have kind of told you if it was here or there, or here's your options. I totally get, I mean, it's, we do see it a lot. It's a tough pickle, right? Given, like I said, like you said, you've already purchased the shed and you have it.
And on the second variance, that if this variance is granted, since she needs an additional 10.1 feet, what does the code say that you're permitted? What's it supposed to be, 30?
So that's a planned development district. So it has some of its own rules. It defers to the R2 district for, things like accessory structures and whatnot. But that, the Schedule 2 height and area requirements for R2 require a 40-foot front setback. And because this is a planned development district, they were reduced to 30 feet. So there's not a sentence in the code that specifically talks about what we are saying here, other than it doesn't meet the setbacks that are required for the approved development.
Okay. I think with that, it happens that when someone asks for a variance, and then sometimes like, oh gee, there's another variance that's going to come into play. So we've had applicants come before when it's one thing if there's one variance, but when there's 2, 3, 4, we've had on 5 and 6 variances for one parcel. It's like, wow, that's just too many. It's a problem with the ask. But what Adam was discussing, and if this is granted, you're going to need the 10.1 feet for variance for the front setback. Then it also concerns me that the discussion that we had about moving the shed someplace, that's not going to work either. You're going to need a variance, no matter where you put it. So you have a shed, the size of it, it's just too large for the lot itself, no matter where you put it. And considering the slope of the land.
The other one as well is there's a line drawn on the survey that says RG&E. I'm pretty sure the shed's going right over it. It looks like,
I'm not quite sure it's that.
you don't think it's that, well, it's outside of the setback line, right? Because there's 4 or 5 feet between the structure, the building itself and the house.
Correct.
And then you go another 11.
Correct.
So,
So yeah, I mean, it's probably near the edge of the easement, but I'm
yeah, not in the middle of it, but I
Yeah.
think it's,
that's RG&E's.
Any other questions, comments? Anything you want to add, ask?
I just have one question. You said last time when you built the house, since it's Ryan, they come with different options. There was an option to build a 3-car garage, but you didn't go with it?
Correct.
Okay. Was there a reason why?
It was just additional cost.
Okay.
I do have one suggestion, Mike, depending on how you feel the vote's going to go, but is it worth it to maybe ask the applicant to propose a different size shed in another location, and just in terms of trying to make something that is smaller, less impactful, but still has some utility to you that isn't the existing shed, that if you took kind of all of our comments and may help you, like maybe less of a impact from a variance perspective, if it were smaller or closer to the house, or a different color and a different size.
I don't know if that's going to help, because even if you go an 8 by 10 shed, the width, almost no matter where you put it on the side of that home, is likely to trigger a need for variance that Adam was talking about.
Well, I was thinking more so if you've had something smaller and you're able to put it in the back, like what
Okay.
you were saying.
Yeah.
And you might have to put, the back of it might be on a couple blocks or, to keep it level or something to that effect. But it may be something that instead of just potentially ending up with a denial, maybe there's just an opportunity I'm open to just trying to work with you on it. It's just that the current shed exists, and it's I'm not quite sure that one's gonna work. But instead of just having the clock start for a year, getting a denial on a shed, and not being able to do anything, I'm just wondering if it's worth it to have the applicant maybe present an option or two over the next month and think about what they want to do. That's all.
Understand his comments, that, much like we told the other applicant, that there's certain options you have and certain consequences, that if there's a denial tonight, you're going to be stuck with the decision for a year. I'm presuming you don't appeal it. But if you say, gee, I'd like a different option, I'd like to think about it, we can table it, you come back the next time and say, gee, I'd like to think about doing it this way or that way, so it won't have such an impact, kind of impact that we're talking about. Do you want to look at those options, think about it, or do you want the board to vote today? We try and give the applicant as many choices as we can.
I mean, my biggest issue is what do I do with the shed I have now?
Facebook Marketplace, I don't know.
That was gonna be
mean-
my suggestion, yeah.
Mike, if we deny the variance today and then she wants to put it in the backyard, would that prohibit her from applying for a
No, it's the
Just the
same
specific-
location,
same
right?
okay.
Right, same size, same location. If it's different, a different spot, backyard, then it's a brand-new variance.
That would be a different variance anyway, because this one's for forward of the front line of the home, and that would be for a rear setback reduction. So it's,
So, yeah, if she moved the location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you like to do?
It's a tough one.
When I hear that, with applicants saying that, we can give you the next time, when is our next meeting? It's gotta be July. So July 17th should give you enough time to figure out which way you want to go. I will caution you, if you're not here on the 17th, we're gonna vote.
Okay, so
Or we
if
can
we,
vote tonight. Do you tell us how?
so if we decide to move it, go with a smaller shed, then we still have to ask for a variance?
I think what
I
you,
don't
what you ought
understand.
to do is, if you decide on a smaller shed, give Adam a call and say, here's the size we're looking at, here's where we'd like to put it, and he's gonna give you a better idea on, yes, you need a variant, because you're gonna need a building permit.
Okay,
Give him the location, you take some measurements, and then he can give you a much better idea on what kind of variance, if you do need one, what you're gonna need. But it sounds like no matter where you put a shed on that parcel, you're going to need a variance in some way. Just one kind of variance may have a less of an impact than another.
I mean, either way, it's gonna be a different process, right? For the other shed, it's gonna be, I mean,
Variance is, it's the same analysis, but depending on where it is in the property, what kind of impact it's going to have, it's going to, the questions will be a little different, and the answers are going to be different. So the outcome certainly could be different, but I can't make any promises because we don't know what it is yet.
sure. Okay.
I think you at least have the benefit of, you've been here twice, right? And you've heard a lot of our, questions and answers, and I probably have a feel for what at least some of our kind of hot buttons are, or the issues, and kind of the side setback is a bit of a new thing now, right? For the,
Yep.
the side of the house. Yeah, I'm thinking if you could, and often it is the permitting process that you know, people end up coming in here, right? Because Adam will say, hey, you know, if you, this is what you really want, you need another 2 feet over here or a foot over here or this or that. And then you have the opportunity to either, you know, have it be compliant and get the permit, or, you know, come in front of us and, like any other applicant, I think now at least you have the, benefit of hearing, you know, having a couple Q&A sessions to understand what might work a little better, and maybe understand the property and the lines and the setbacks a little better. Certainly, I feel like I do after a couple meetings here. Right?
So if I understand correctly, is there a possibility to move the shed we have now to the back of the house, or no? Or will it still?
As I understand what Adam's analysis is, if you move that shed in the backyard, you're still going to need a variance because it is the rear setback issue.
I just said there's a possibility based on what I observed. It may squeeze in there. I would have to go out and measure,
Okay.
but just based on the topography map
patio is,
and where the patio ends.
I don't think there's
Right.
any chance of that. Too big, the way it is back there, without a variance. The other house isn't very far away.
I don't want to guess at anything, right?
Yeah.
So I think what it sounds like what should happen, sorry.
Because, I mean, I would really like to keep the shed we have, just if there was a possibility to move it, I mean, even if it needs a variance or,
All right, here's my suggestion. Table this. Give Adam a call. And find out when he's available to come out to the property and get an idea, will that shed fit in the backyard? And if it won't, what kind of variances are you going to need? Is it
Okay.
a foot? It might be
Okay.
5 inches, but
Stake the corners, right? Get a,
Sure.
you know, stake the corners, see where it
yeah.
where it
Okay.
falls, the elevation differences between front and back or side,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Okay.
we have, Fred's got a good eye. Adam's our code enforcement officer. I think we'd like to get it right.
Of course.
And that time, I think, would be well spent.
Okay.
We do that, Adam?
Yes.
So give him a call. He's a
Okay.
busy guy, but he should be able to find some time to run out there and
Sure.
figure out what needs to be done.
Okay.
But in the meantime, let's put you on the calendar for the 17th,
Okay.
July 17th. Okay?
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks so much. Thanks for your patience. Have a couple of withdrawals, and then we have mobile graphics.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the zoning board. My name is Matt Garber. I'm with DDS. We were here a month ago on behalf of Mobile Graphics. We since then amended our application for the modification of the use variance to include the proposed 7,500 square foot building and the minor site improvements, also to provide 2 one-bedroom accessory apartments, and to request the max number of employees be changed to 9, which would be adding 2 additional employees. And since then, there was the county planning board meeting, and they had come to the conclusion of denying. I'm guessing because they didn't get the amended application yet, because a lot of the stuff in the email that I sent, Amber had answered a lot of their questions, and I'm not sure if you guys got a copy of the email. I have extras with me. If you didn't, I can hand out.
I don't know if they denied it for the fact that they didn't get the information.
Okay,
It sounds like the points that they were hitting, summarizing it, it's a big ask. It's, does that use variance modification fit the neighborhood? Has the business outgrown?
Right, I
the
answered
particular
that.
area? And the lack of the, what they call dollars and cents, not being able to prove the financials to the hardship piece. That's what I understood, it was their
yeah,
hook.
okay. Amber had told me to email her,
Is this
and
the-
that would,
Is this the
count.
email from May 9th?
yes,
Okay, yeah, we have it.
okay. Yeah, and that covered a lot of the questions they had asked and the comments they had.
Were you able to submit anything about, again, those dollars and cents questions that they had? Do you know what I'm referring to on that, or
Yes,
not? I
yeah,
can
we
go
do
ahead.
have, if Chris is able to come up, we have the dollars and cents for,
It's property
showing-
value, property taxes, mortgage liens, and it's not so much to the owner per se, but it's to the land itself. It's not being able to get the reasonable return out of that property.
okay.
If you have them, we'd love to hear it.
I do not have everything that you just talked about, taxes and
Okay, well, what do you have?
everything.
Here's the county comments if you
Chris Bailey. The comment that I had was basically, or not the comment, but the rebuttal was one of your questions about looking at off-site storage. And I did look into that, and I pulled some numbers together on myself on what that might look like. An off-site storage would have to be climate controlled for the materials that we work with. Finding that is a little difficult, but estimated about $1,000 a month would be, and a $600 weekly cost to us to find off-site storage, which was an estimate cost of about $3,400 a month. The new building cost would cost us about $3,000 a month. So it really didn't factor too quickly that we would seek outside storage.
All right, so in the analysis, and this, I'm not making this up, this is how the law works, that for a use variance, you have to find, you have to get all the four criteria, and one of the criteria deals with the ability to get a reasonable return out of that property. Not whether you specifically, but again, it's the homeowner or it's the property owner not being able to sell the property or use the property. But that would really go for everybody, for all the permitted uses in that area. So you have a business, it's doing very well, you want to grow, you want to expand, and that was at one of the points that the planning board was talking about. He says, well, gee, you're doing so well, maybe you've outgrown it. And putting, I'm going to be facetious for a moment, putting a 30,000 square foot print shop in that location is going to change the character of the neighborhood. Would you agree with that? You know, there's a number that's, it's too big, right? Eventually, you have to look at to say, well, what is it going to look like for what we want to do there? Is it going to have any negative impact on the character of the neighborhood? You want to try and keep things somewhat stable. If it's an industrial kind of piece, well, then you go to the industrial area. If it can be done in an area without a huge negative impact on the particular area, then sure, you can do it. That's what the original use variance was for. But you're growing, and that's a good thing. So that's what I'm looking at, what the county planning board was talking about and recommending a denial. And in that piece, what the law requires us to do is, if we were to approve it, it's not a simple majority. It's a majority plus one. So we're 5, majority would be 3, majority plus 1 is 4.
Okay.
So you would have to have 4 out of 5 say, we hear you, county planning board, but we're going to override your denial and grant the approval. Right, does that make sense?
Yes.
If not, I can back up and explain it a different way.
No, I thought their token was part of what you guys decide, and then seeing the county board already kind of, has an opinion about it.
They do. The county planning board is an advisory board. All that they do is help us see what kind of impact occurs when variances are granted, but more so, how does community, neighbors, especially when it impacts neighborhoods, communities, towns. The reason why the county planning board got to give us their opinion is because of the proximity to the thruway. So other times, if it was close to the state highway, if it was close to Bloomfield, Farmington, whatnot, but that's why they decided to, they have to. That's what the law requires. So in their comments, they're saying, well, gee, originally it was a residential neighborhood. There was a good reason for the use variance to begin with. And then once your business starts to expand, now you're looking for more employees, an apartment, and almost doubling the size of your business as far as space-wise. So their concerns are, have you outgrown that parcel? I'll ask you, is there going to be a time when you say, it's not big enough for us anymore?
Okay. So we do have a couple neighbors that signed letters I can bring up if you want.
Sure. Thanks. These are ours to keep?
Yes. And about it affecting the characteristic of the neighborhood, traffic-wise, the business will be maintaining how it is existing. There won't be more deliveries in and out. If anything, there'll be 2 cars parked in the back for the accessory apartments with traffic along that road with the New York State DOT and the buses and the deliveries constantly going in there and the maintenance that goes in there. I would say it's not changing the traffic of the road. And the new addition building will be, I have renderings. I don't know if you guys got those. It'll be matching the existing building with how it looks. Yep, as shown up there. Yeah. So I think it's more of a site modification rather than a business modification, like you said, just having more space for storage and being able to move around a little bit easier in the existing building.
Ready for some questions, or you got more?
No, you can, yeah, I'm ready for questions.
Okay, Matt, got some questions?
Not much more than you've already talked about. I think the business has been a success, and to a certain extent, I think you're at a bit of a crossroads with what can we do with the existing site. It's probably the most cost-effective versus, geez, we've really come to the realization we've really outgrown it. We've really outgrown the, conditions that were originally set on the particular parcel being in an R1 or having to utilize R1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you get by the, number 1 and number 4, right? The applicant cannot realize a reasonable return, provided that lack of return is substantial and demonstrated by competent financial evidence. The reason why you're in where you're in, which gives me the number 4, right, self-created, is that the business has been incredibly successful. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we get by those 2, right? And this isn't, with it being a use variance, it's different. It's a higher bar than an area variance. It just feels like, and especially with the county also providing their input, you've outgrown the site. Is kind of where I'm at with it. I mean,
I think sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
How I see it is we didn't really outgrow the site. We outgrew the current building and we'll be taking down the existing barn in the back that, in the use variance, is only used as storage. No utilities going to it, where
But not outgrowing the site would keep our business, I mean, it'd be different if you were here, for example, in the, let's just say, the business was in financial disarray because something happened, and, oh, we've got to expand, or we've got to do something else to be able to do that, and you had competent, and you had the financial evidence to kind of show that there's a real hardship that wasn't self-created.
Okay.
And there was really no other way to be able to utilize that land or any of the other uses that are allowed there. To Mike's point, I think your case is more of a, we've been very successful, and in order to continue being successful, we've got to double our size. Right?
If we were to propose a smaller expansion, or not expansion, a smaller new building, would that be seen as more approving, or if we were just shoring it up?
It's a hard question to answer.
Okay.
Because when you're looking at being able to approve a modification for a use variance, you still need to use the criteria that Matt and I have been talking about. And when you look at, again, the doubling of the square footage size, the law asks the zoning board to say, is this a major or a minor modification of the use variance? The doubling of the size invites the answer to be, it's a major modification. You're asking for apartments that arguably really have nothing to do with the business. And I know, we've heard snippets of why it might be related, but it's another expansion, a major modification for the apartments. The additional employees, all those are falling into the category of major modifications. Would a smaller size building sway us to say it's now getting into the minor? Could be, but you still need to show what those and demonstrate the competent financial evidence. And we've asked it before, and we can't take it lightly. That's what the law is. And if you're not quite sure what that term of art means, highly recommend go talk to an attorney that knows how to deal, and especially in use variances. They're hard things to get approval for. And all my research I've ever done, they're few and far between. Area variances, there's more latitude, there's more of a balancing test, but use variances, it's an all or nothing. It's a high bar. So on that piece, if you want to go back, think about it and say, gee, maybe we'll come back with a modification. We'll come back with some financials, some competent financial evidence that shows that we can't get a reasonable return with how we are using this property. Again, not just property owners, it's anyone that would have that piece of property being able to use all of those permitted uses in the area. Not just what I don't mean to point, sorry.
No, I get
Not just what they're using it for, but all the permitted uses.
Okay.
Right? Lawyers are expensive. I understand it, but they understand it, and getting some valuable information from valuable advice on how to proceed with this thing could benefit you in the long run.
Understood.
Before I end that little soapbox speech, we'll just go down the line a little bit. Alexis, you got questions, comments?
The letters, there were 2, but did you get anything from 7126 Lane Road?
Is that next door? Yeah.
So, I did actively talk with her, and she actually said she might be here tonight, and she is not present. Her question was the trees, the apple trees, would they be affected? And it's 17 feet from the building. So I basically told her that if she wasn't pleased with the plantings and stuff that are approved by the board, that we would talk and openly, do something that made her feel better about it. But the apple trees themselves are not affected.
Are they your apple trees?
They're right on, like on the
They're on
line.
the line.
Yeah.
And then are you, the 3 modifications, I mean, would you be willing to, I guess, be open to not all 3 or just 1, just 2, something like that?
Yes.
If you didn't build a new showroom or build a new showroom as it's drawn now, would you still want the extra 2 employees
Yes.
to work out of the existing?
Yes.
Okay. Can I ask how set you are on the apartments?
Not totally set on the apartments, if that, you know, and that was actually a question I wrote down. What is the bearings on, you know, a vote? You know, if you guys, you know, much like you did with the last person, kind of give me the insight of, you know, I'm looking where to go. Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, 25 years in Victor and being there, it's hard for me to look at another location. It's just the roots of the business are here, our clientele, you know, the close proximity that we work with a lot of businesses and stuff. It frightens me to think about moving. It frightens me to think of my employees, of, you know, directions that they live in, and if I have to make this decision, do I pull it this way so this guy's got to drive that much longer? You know, so I'll just, you know, we built it where we did, and it, you know, it's just that nucleus that happens around it that, you know, we've grown because of Victor and where we're at, and we're excited about all that, but I can't be too excited to say, look at a transplant. It's just, you know, where we've been, so that's, I would love to work with you guys on some level, if it is taken down in size, if the apartments have to get thrown out, it's, yes, storage is the main function of what we want to do, and I voiced it before. To gain storage, we want vehicle installation to be at another site would be ideal, so that we don't have to have the alleyway in the building now open for that vehicle installation. We could start overtaking that part of it by, you know, equipment, or just spread out, because things are tight around there, and that's, you know, the business has grown. And I understand your point of the area and the business growing to a level where, you know, it eclipses that. With the 40 by 60 barn that's already there, that's not being used except for storage, that is falling apart. I do not want to put the money into that building. I would rather take it down and put up a structure that looks like the building that's next to it. So I think that had appeal to it that is not really talked about too much, how much that could look better. As far as the size goes, that could be debatable. Obviously, the larger you get, then I don't have the problem that I ran into for 25 years. So, you know, the biggest footprint that would be allowed would be what I would be after. So, yeah, we're going for something bigger than we need today, tomorrow, but, you know, as provisions go. And having a second building, to your point too, to me, if I add on to my building, it's more of a difficult thing later on to deal with if we go, you know, if our business shrinks and we have a recession that we go through, then I have 2 buildings that I can do something with, as opposed to one conglomerate that I'm stuck with, and, you know, all my eggs are in one basket, to say.
On the 3 modifications, I don't have a problem with the increase on the employees. The apartments, I would not be inclined to support. I know it's for, you know, yourself and your family, but I know you mentioned, like, maybe down the road, you sell the business, and you kind of have an issue where, you know, you sell them the land and the business, but you're renting from them to, like, live on the apartment. I know technically, yes, it is residential, but you're using it for commercial use, so I think it should really stay commercial. You know, but I don't think that you wouldn't be able to find something, you know, with 2 apartment kind of home in Victor to move into if you're looking to downsize yourself, on the apartments. For the showroom, if you were to work something out with your neighbor there, just to kind of get some sort of approval from her, or some sort of, I guess, agreement, especially if you've got now trees on the property line, just so you're somewhat in some sort of agreement on it, that we had in writing, that would be, I'd be more favorable on than the additional showroom.
The additional showroom.
Or the new building.
Okay.
So I think the showroom's on there because the use variance, as it exists now, doesn't allow for a showroom, but they have a showroom existing. So they're
The
looking.
new building is what I mean.
No, so the showroom's existing in their existing building. So they were trying to also modify the variance to include that showroom, because right now, it's not supposed to be there. I don't think they were trying to put a showroom in the new building.
Oh, okay.
It's part of their overall modification.
So it'd be 4 then, because you have 3 listed. Increase the employees by 2, allow for 2-bedroom apartments for the owners and employee to live in, allow a showroom in the existing building occupying the eastern portion of the property, and then the 4th would be
Garage itself.
the garage, okay. So allowing a showroom in the existing building, then I wouldn't have a problem with that. It would be the garage where, personally, I'd like to see something between you and the neighbor, kind of, I guess, some sort of agreement, nothing too formal, this is fine here, what you did with the other 2.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions.
Leah?
A couple of questions. At the slide went pretty quick, which had the floor plan of the new building, but I have my notes from last time. So in the new building, you're going to have, it's going to be 20 by 30. Thank you. So 26 by 66 is for storage, and then also 44 by 74 for, also future growth and storage. So, and the rest is for, the 2 apartments. Do you anticipate, I know you've grown a lot in the past couple of years, and that's why you're outgrowing this space. What are your plans for future growth, like within the next 4 or 5 years?
This is why we're talking about this. This future growth aspect, I think, puts us at a 10 to 20-year mark. I mean, if we bridge that gap, then, I think we're in a different level of business and would be, conducive to look elsewhere at that point. But right now, we're pretty small-minded, family-oriented size business. We are not looking to go, we're not working on plans to double our business revenue or anything like that. We're looking to maintain our customers. We stay up to date with technology. That's, some of the big printers that we have and stuff, floor space, and equipment that we run. So it's more so not the growth factor or not our projection of growth. Year after year, we've had under 10% growth, but it's brought us to this level where, we're starting to get tight where we are. So we have to seek out another avenue. That, like I mentioned, the avenue that I haven't gone after is going somewhere else. If it pushes us to that level, then we have to go there. But ideally, this is where we feel real comfortable.
Yeah, and I think part of your proposal, having those 2 apartments, I think that's what puts a negative light on this project. Because I know I would be more amenable if you did not have these 2 apartments at all and just kept that space for potential other growth or storage of equipment or material. But having those apartments there, because as Alexis said, if ever you sell the property, those 2 apartments are there, and whether you stay a tenant or somebody else go in, it gets a little sticky.
Can that not be written up in some guidelines, though? as far as the stickiness goes for the future. I know that Ontario County did mention that it could be bound by employees or owners or something in the, the restrictions.
In the use variance.
In the use
They could
variance.
say, only to be used by employees or owners of the current business.
There,
Can't be
right,
rented.
for area and use variances, there can be conditions to a granting of a variance.
And, and what, if a variance is granted for this and you do move ahead with expanding, whatever form it is, with or without the apartments, but you said something, which is very true. If you transition like to another location, like for instance, even let's say you move to the industrial corridor of Victor, but still there's gonna be a gap. With any business that expands, that's gonna happen anyway.
Sure.
It's gonna be like 3 months. So, when you mentioned that there's gonna be a gap of operations, that's something you cannot avoid. You're gonna have that, however long that might be. So I don't think that's a good justification for this variance, for that reason.
Can't it be avoided if they stay on the property though, without having that gap?
Well, there'll be some disruption. There probably won't be like a gap, like, maybe sometimes 2 months. Like I know a business now where I used to live, 40-year business, 25 years in the location, they had to now shut down because the landlord's selling the property. And they said it's going to be like 3 months to open the new one because they're in final negotiations for new space. So, I mean, if you expanded here, you wouldn't have that. But even if you move to the industrial corridor to a new location, you're going to have some gap.
Sure.
Probably not as long, but, maybe a few weeks. That's to be expected. Let's see what else. Like Mike said, it's just too many things it's too many items with this. And like Alexis says, I don't have a problem with 9 employees. I have a big problem with the apartments.
Okay.
That's the big thing.
Well, I think it's a pretty nice application, tear down the old garage and build a new nice-looking one with improvements. As far as the neighborhood goes, what kind of a neighborhood is it when it's throughway in the backyard, school in the front yard with all kinds of traffic, one house on the east side, and he's got a motorcycle track. That only leaves one house on the west side compared to a neighborhood. I think it's kind of a loose comparison, so I would say neighborhood's fine. And I understand about this financial business. People that I'd like to have think that you can do it as you. And I would agree with it. I would, did you move up there after the fire?
No, we had the production facility.
Was there before?
We added on to the front because we had
Yes,
the office, yeah.
Yes, I remember seeing that now. So, I guess I'm more in favor of it. I don't like the apartments. I can't figure that out. I don't know what the zoning would be for that. Light industrial with a...
The apartments was a fifth hour thrown in to the project. It was, I mentioned my son and stuff, but basically, we were looking at this well before, apartment wasn't the reason for the building. The building was for the business, the storage, that we don't occupy that building and use it the way we can. It's 40 by 60 barn. we really don't utilize it just because stuff's falling from the ceiling, and it's just, I can't keep stuff over there that's any good. It's not heated, it's not cooled, so I can't really use it for the storage that I want to use it for right now. So that's why we looked at this. The apartment was an
Maybe,
afterthought.
maybe if that was just put off sometime in the
Apartment-
future,
Yeah, the apartment is not,
it wouldn't be such a theoretical impact. That's my thought.
Most of the
If they would like to see
discussion
that, yeah.
that has happened, I think, in the last 10 minutes or so has referred and driven at the third criteria about whether or not it's going to change the character of the neighborhood. And that's all fine and good. You got to put it in there. We have some teeth, if you will, to plug those facts in there. But what we are, I think, as a board, very short of is having what they call competent financial proof, the financials. And maybe I can describe it this way. There's people out there, I'm one of them. You do some DIY stuff, right? I like to do it. But there's a certain level, it's like, this is way above my pay grade, right? I need somebody that really knows how things work. Could I build a deck, for example, that's 4 feet off the ground, 12? Sure, I can do that. 16 feet off the ground, way above my pay grade. I need somebody to know structure, how to tie things in, on and on. I think where you're getting at, because these are use variances, you need somebody that really knows how this mechanism, how the law works here. We've asked, you've been here a few times. It's really not something to play with. And this is your business, it's important. I'm suggesting, think about it. Go talk to somebody that knows what use variances are. Have the minutes, right? They're online. You show it to him or her and say, what the heck are they talking about? How does this work? What does financial evidence mean? What does competent financial evidence mean? What do they? I think you're going to start to see. It's like, this is what the board's talking about. This is what you need to show. They may be able to say to you, boy, it's a big ask, all right? Or maybe it's like, if you give them this, they might be able to help you. But without those pieces, we can't fit the puzzle together for you. We can't make the case for you. I can give you some hints about what maybe you should be looking at so that we can look at this and decide, yes, we're going to approve it by overriding the county planning board and saying, no, we just don't have it. We don't have the evidence. We don't have the facts to plug in here to override the county planning board. Right, does that make sense at all? And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to say you'll throw a whole bunch of money at something and a problem that may or may not happen.
yeah,
I think you've heard, I'm sorry to interrupt, I think you've heard the apartments is, you probably
yeah,
should take.
loud and clear on the apartments. The finances stuff, you're right, it's above my pay grade. I'm not understanding what to present to you to bring you what you're asking for. And I just having a hard time justifying that an attorney is gonna tell the story of what I can't tell.
Sorry to interrupt, an attorney may also tell you, like, this is impossible. Like, they may tell you, this is impossible. I mean, they can give you their opinion based on, like, again, I sit here going, I don't know how you get over the financial evidence and the self-created aspect of it. I mean, before you guys, tonight, we talked about, area variances, and area variances, you can be flexible, it's a balancing act, there's certain applications that, the characteristic of the neighborhood weighs more than others. There's the aspect of it being self-created, doesn't necessarily, can't necessarily have a negative impact on the overall case. So everyone who comes in front of us with a area variance, it's always self-created generally, because it's something they want, and therefore it's self-created, but it doesn't prevent them from getting an area variance. A use variance is a completely different animal. It does prevent you from getting a use variance. It's a
Well,
number 1 and number 2 and number 3 and number 4. It's not like the others that have been in front of you. We probably, and I'm just, we probably see 2 use variances a year, most. I mean, they're tough, and I think a lot of people too, when they seek counsel, they kind of tell it to them the way it is, that it's a very high bar. And it's great that you're coming in here with a success story, right? Not trying to not the opposite, but it's a high bar. And I don't know how more to say it. I mean, to Mike's point, it was great. We're talking about, we've got letters from neighbors, and a lot of it's focused on number 3, and that's great. I think that probably checks that box. Bless you. But the others, I can't go, oh, number 3 is so great, it outweighs number 1 and 4 and 2. It's just not, it's not the same thing. So I think to Mike's advice, it's probably talking to council, even if it's just spending a couple hours with someone to say, what do you think the pitch is? What are my odds of something like this? How would I tackle the self-created piece? How do I tackle the financial evidence piece when my business has been wildly successful? It's tough.
One thing I'm a little confused about is that number 4 says the alleged hardship. I don't know who's alleging a hardship.
We have,
We
that's
haven't
my
heard
point.
anything from the applicant to that.
That's
my point.
tied in, though, in a use variance. What you're saying is, I have a hardship here. I can't use the property the way that the code allows other people to use it.
That's my point, is that there is no hardship. The hardship is that their business has been successful and they've outgrown the site. But that's not a hardship per the law.
It's maybe a better example. I consider myself relatively educated. I would do my own taxes. Would I do the taxes of Constellation Brands? No, that's super complicated stuff. You gotta really know. It's a very small niche, and that's kind of what this stuff is. It's just not any attorney out there. The accident attorneys. Maybe they know how to do it, maybe they don't. But you want somebody who knows municipal law, that knows zoning law, that knows how this stuff ticks, and what those pieces that need to be delivered to a zoning board to have any chance of getting a use variance modification granted. I think as it sits right now, everything that you're asking for probably isn't going to end well.
No, I
Don't have the pieces.
I understand that. With something existing, I didn't know how, that worked. With good standing, 25 years in business, looking to expand, have a building that's existing, that's where mine is going, not proving, hey, the guy wants to expand, he's in Victor, pat him on the back, help him on his way, make sure he complies the code. That's not the case. I mean, the case is, you're not going to put it up unless you prove you got the right numbers that show. To me, it's just,
I think we're spending a
Doesn't make
little more
sense.
time with you because you have been here.
Yeah.
You are an established business. We'd like you to, the village, the town, would like you to stay here. But there's a certain point, it's like the ask is too big, and sometimes as much as we like to say, yes, it looks like it's a great project, it's a wonderful thing to do, we gotta follow the code, you gotta follow the law, and there's certain amount of latitude that we have, but if we don't have, again, going back to those pieces, our hands are tied, we can't grant it.
yeah, I mean, the hardship wise, we spent $10,000 in engineering and, coming to meetings and stuff so far. So looking for an attorney and going 20,000, 30,000 deep, and it's still kind
Sure.
of up in the air of where we're at. So that's, the hardship part to me is that. I've already spent, the money I didn't think I'd have to spend to get where I am, and now it's just like,
Look, I'm with you. The hindsight's always 20/20. The first step when it's a use variance is usually probably talking to an attorney. Even with us, we would probably also talk to the town attorney in the response that your attorney would provide to us, because it gets that specific in trying to prove. I honestly can't. Been here 16 years. Maybe I've seen one that's made it through the goalie. To Mike's point,
we did have an attorney the first time.
right, and then,
when we-
yep,
when
and
we went
I
through the
saw
process.
that, and I've read through all of that, and I think the town did a lot to make it work for you, right? It was 2006, I think, the last one, or the amendment to it, and there was a lot that the town was able to do to get that use variance in place, and it was also very specific, right? No showroom, no expanding, only 7 employees. You know, it had those guardrails on it because they were extending an olive branch to you to operate that way in a residentially zoned, parcel. And it just feels like, again, the day's come, right? And you've been successful, and the town's, gave you the latitude to operate as you needed to. And but with that comes, unfortunately, the red tape involved in now trying to change it and grow from there when the exceptions were made for that site to help you.
Would it be a different meeting if the existing building we rebuilt just on that footprint alone?
I think it's everything. So even something like, we want a showroom and we want 9 people. I still don't know how to answer those 2 questions. I don't know how to say it's not self-created and that you have a hardship. Even if you were here in front of me saying, I need 2 more people. Now, maybe if it was I need 2 people, but they're both going to be remote and it's not going to add it, that's maybe an easier sell. But I don't know how to get through it's not self-created. Because again, you're here because it's self-created because of your success, not because of, even a failure is self-created to a certain regard. Now, a lot of people can point to, for example, the pandemic, that wasn't self-created, this all happened. That would be very, very true. And that could be used as a, not self-created thing, maybe for certain, circumstances. And where you've got a financial hardship or something else happened, a chemical spill on your neighbor's property polluted and made it a brown site, and now you can't realize a return on that parcel because you can't use it for any of those very specific things that are on there. Like to Mike's point earlier, there are, very strange, things that can happen that can make a site not usable by anybody. Those are the ones that are generally in front of us where there's something like that happens. And it's, like I said, it's great that, you guys have been very successful, but I just don't know. I don't know how to use the use variance to, the rigidity of the use variance for conditions, the ands, to give a company that's been successful more. It's really meant for the opposite. It's meant for, we've got a financial hardship here. We can't utilize get the use out of this particular parcel that because of X, Y, and Z. In the outgrowing piece, I think it's kind of the expectation that if you got the use variance, it got to you to where you are, you've outgrown it, and you either stay as is or you grow out of the parcel. That's, I don't know, I can't think of another growth story where a use variance would show that hardship, would show a hardship. Think about that, right? How was a success? I don't know how to spin a success into a hardship and with tax returns and competent financial, it's just, and it's not an area variance. An area variance, again, we can be more lenient and weigh things differently. A use variance, especially as well as with the denial from the county, with it being a majority plus 1, just tough.
So
I feel for you.
you have options here. I think it's, certainly we could take a vote today, but I think you've figured out it's probably not going to go well because we're missing pieces. Certainly can table it for the next time. We're not going to keep going over this. I think you really got the picture of it. If we see something different, if you decide to talk to somebody that knows how this mechanism works, you are able to plug in these pieces for us so that we can take a hard look at it. Certainly would look at modifications. We can't, can't make any promises. There are no crystal balls. You're not quite sure what you're thinking about. It's your choices. And I think you've heard today and other nights, we want to give the applicant as many opportunities as possible so that maybe they get what they want, maybe they don't, but you've had a fair shake at it.
I just have a couple questions, if you don't mind. And I liked I think it was Matt who wrote it. You repeated references to tremendous business success. But my question would be, right now, because you are, you're doing so much work and you need 2 extra employees, has your turnaround time for customers gotten longer? Are you losing customers who say, no, that's way too long for me to wait? Sorry, I'm going someplace else. Any of these, have you had any of that where you've got too much business that you can't handle it right now?
The short answer is, my wife and I want to exit the business.
Okay.
We need 2 bodies to backfill us.
Okay.
We don't count as the 7, so that is part of the issue. We do work 60 hours a week ourselves right now, and if we pull ourselves out, we are trying to go remote 20 hours a week and still keep things functioning. It isn't a product of delayed times, deliveries to customers or anything. It's more so because we're 25 years in and just need to rest up a little bit. We can't put the energy into it that we have year after year right now. So it's we're looking to get people in so that we can try to segue out a little bit. So the number of bodies in the shop really isn't going to change a whole lot. That's the ideal look for us. Again, it's not a growth factor that we're trying to exponentially grow. It's just maintaining what we have.
Okay. And so the proposed new building, that would, help you grow. You've outgrown the current building?
Equipment-wise and stuff, yeah, well, in stages.
Yep.
Since when we first built it, we had basketball courts in the back.
Yep.
We had, tons of room to play around, but as we've grown through the years, we've taken up floor space, and now we've got to that pinnacle where I can't plan another piece of equipment that I'd like to buy because of floor space. And so that's my hardship is, there are pieces of equipment I'd go to buy tomorrow if I had a room for it. I don't have room for it, plain and simple. And I can't figure out how to reorganize stuff without taking my vehicle bay, and that's an integral part of what we do. So it's tough to say we don't do this anymore. So yeah, what you guys have shared with me is, maybe it's time that we have to look elsewhere. That's the point blank. It's kind of blunt right now that, we're asking for something that's probably impossible.
We didn't answer your question, and I think Adam could help. You had asked if you didn't do the garage, but you used the same footprint as the barn that you want to knock down.
Yeah.
Would he need a use variance for that?
Yes, because right now, so that barn became part of that parcel when you did an administrative lot line adjustment, and one regulation was that barn is not supposed to be used for business use, personal storage only. So if he was to then build a new barn for business use, it would be a modification to the use variance. If they rebuilt that barn for personal use, he just needs a building permit, as long as it doesn't grow
I
inside.
thought, Adam, the way you pictured it as well was they need the use variance for the showroom that exists today.
Correct. I don't know. So the way that it's written, I don't know how long that showroom's been there. I've only been here, just about 2 years. I've only done the inspection that's required once. Seems like a significant amount of space. It's an obvious showroom. There's displays and things like that. So even to keep that showroom, it seems like your use variance needs modification, the way it's written as is. And I know there was some confusion. You guys were under the impression that the last time you came in for a modification that was included, or maybe it was the building addition after the, but I didn't.
That was all during the fire, and things happened
Yeah.
fast, and I know the board helped us along our way quickly there
Yeah.
too in our transition, so.
I was just unable to find anything written that the showroom was now allowed, like that condition of the original use variance had been eliminated. So,
I have a question. Would taking down the existing barn in the back and building a new one, would that show a hardship of that barn not being able to be used because it's falling apart? Or no, would that not be
I don't think you
considered?
can use it.
they're not supposed to be using it for business use,
But for storage,
for personal storage only.
personal storage.
jumped in there, sorry. Did you have other questions?
No, I was just trying to almost look for the hardship, I guess, in the financial aspect of if you're not able to do the business that you are currently getting coming in because of the lack of the additional building, the lack of the employees kind of thing. That was it.
What would you like to do? You can,
Well,
it's
obviously,
a
we're-
big question.
Yeah, I know. We're tabling the whole structure, obviously. It's a question of, do we need to reapply to go after the employees in the showroom? Or can that be a vote and we nix off the other two?
Right now, all the apartments, the employees, the showroom, and
All
the
together.
size of the
Yeah.
garage, that's all, the public has been properly noticed. If you at any point want to say, you know what, just take the apartments off, scratch it off. You can certainly do that. You can do it tonight. You can do it on the 17th. You just need something informal, whether it's in writing via email, or you say, I'm good with not having fill in the blank, then that's what you do. You want to think about it, that's absolutely, I encourage you to do that. I don't think anybody on the board wants to say, gee, I wish I would have had 10 more minutes to think about it, because we understand. This isn't something that you normally do. Your wheelhouse is printing and doing all, and you can do it like clockwork. This can be a nerve-wracking experience. So thinking about it a little bit of time, and then you let us know what you want to do, and then we'll do it, and making a decision on the 17th, or you want to make modifications to the current use variance application, modification to the use variance, you certainly can do that, or you just say, just make a decision and do it.
No, we need to make modifications for sure, so.
All right, then submit them, and if they're in time, we'll do it on the 17th.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
What time would they have to be submitted by to be on that agenda? 2 weeks from today?
And if that's not enough time, then just let us know, and we'll get a date for you.
No,
As
that's
long as
plenty.
this is an ongoing, we can keep, I'd say adjourning it, but we can keep the hearing open. As long as there's some active, I should say, it can't be infinitum, right? We gotta keep it
Gotta
that
be
way.
some kind of progress, or forget it. Yeah, I get it. We're not wasting your time. That's not why we're here.
I think the pamphlet on the back table there has the submission deadline dates for each meeting. It might be the pamphlet in the front of the little display there, okay?
Okay, thank
Okay?
you.
Very good. Thanks so much for your time and patience. Okay, Adam, anything else for us? Anyone have anything else? Or a
The use permit that they got already, this is the same use.
No, it's not.
Well, bigger.
No,
The
no,
same use. They're doing the same thing.
no, no.
If you want-
The original use variance had to do with a doctor's office.
Fred, it also says that the business can't grow substantially.
Fred, I can
as
read
part
it
of the
to
use
you.
variance.
Right, and this is from their attorney. The only proposed use at the subject property would consist of production location only and would not contain a showroom or other customer-friendly display area. No signage is proposed at the location, so to further ensure that there will be little customer interaction at the site. We're already doing that today, so that's kind of what he was at, is that they proposed that they wouldn't.
Right. And it was
Yeah, but
largely a function because they had a place in
Right.
in the village.
Main Street.
And then they had a fire, right? And then,
Yeah.
but that was kind of, I don't think anything's the fire wasn't in 2006, was it? Fire
No,
was
I think
later.
it was 2014.
Yeah, it was later on.
It was
Kind
later.
of an
It was
outline.
They
later
haven't
than
modified
six.
the use variance. I think they, I don't know who they went in front of, but they moved the showroom temporarily, with air quotes, to the facility in Lane Road.
I don't know if that was even a modification there. I think it went before the planning board only for an expansion after their other business burned. I don't think they ever modified the use variance, and I think they were under the impression that it was modified. But the criteria of the use variance never changed. They went to the planning board in 2014 to put an addition on because of that. So the criteria of the use variance never was amended or modified. So the showroom is this, has anybody stopped in there?
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, so I mean,
Been in there.
it's a substantial amount of square footage, so.
I wouldn't call it a showroom. I didn't see a showroom. They got a,
It's not supposed to be for
they've got a
customers. It's-
counter
it's
that you
supposed-
walk up to do business.
No, but it's supposed to be for production only.
So when
No
I,
customer.
I'd say that's probably what it is.
There's products, though. There's
Yeah.
banners, and it's a
That's
showroom.
what they make.
It's just, then it's a showroom. They're showing off their product.
If you
I
told me,
didn't
if you
see- I
walked in
didn't
and
see
it
a
was full
showroom.
of printers.
so when I walked in, Fred, I mean, it's full of examples of what they make. Stand-ups and banners and, you know,
Yeah, there
signs.
probably was. There
Yeah,
probably
so-
was. Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else they want to discuss before I entertain a motion for adjournment?
I've heard enough.
All right, a motion to adjourn? Anyone?
Second.
On favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thanks so much.
If it's where my battery.
I don't know who did that. Pick anyone.
Well, I think
All in
those
favor?
guys will get that. I think we only got one.
Oh, I got it, I think.